Let's be honest, the moment you realize she might like you isn't loud. It doesn't come with a confession or a dramatic scene. It creeps in quietly through the smallest details you almost ignore. And if you're not paying attention, you'll miss it completely, and another man won't. See, attraction in women is rarely announced. It's revealed carefully, subtly, almost like she's testing whether you're aware enough or just another guy drifting through life blind to the signals right in front of him. You've probably been there before, sitting across from her, talking about something meaningless, while something in the air feels different. She's not saying anything obvious, but something about her presence feels intentional, controlled, directed at you. That's because when a woman likes you, her body starts speaking long before her words do, not in exaggerated, obvious ways. No, it's far more dangerous than that. It's quiet confidence. It's instinct. It's biology doing what it was designed to do, drawing your attention without begging for it. And the first mistake most men make, they look for words. They wait for a sign that sounds like, I like you. But attraction doesn't work like that. Not at the beginning. At the beginning, it lives in glances, in posture, in the way she positions herself when you're near. You see, when a woman is drawn to you, she becomes aware of her body in a way she isn't with other men. She doesn't just exist in the space anymore, she performs subtly, without even realizing it sometimes. And here's the truth most men aren't ready to hear. If she never adjusts herself around you, never becomes slightly more aware, more expressive, more intentional with how she presents herself, then she's not feeling what you hope she is, because attraction creates tension, and tension always leaks through the body. The problem is, you've been trained to ignore these signs, or worse, to misinterpret them completely. You think she's just being nice. You assume she acts this way with everyone. You downplay it because you don't trust your own perception. Meanwhile, the man who understands these signals, he doesn't hesitate. He reads the moment correctly and acts. That's the difference. And I'm not telling you this to make you paranoid. I'm telling you because once you see it, you can't unsee it. You'll start noticing how differently she behaves around you compared to other men, how certain movements become more deliberate, how her energy shifts not loudly, but unmistakably. It's not about arrogance, it's about awareness. Because when a woman likes you, she doesn't chase you in the way you expect. She invites you through her body, her presence, her subtle exposure to notice her. And if you don't, she won't correct you. She'll simply assume you're not the man she thought you might be. That's how silent attraction dies, not with rejection, but with misunderstanding. So, as you listen to this, I want you to stop thinking about what women say and start focusing on what they show, because the truth is right there in front of you, hidden in plain sight. And once you learn to read it, everything changes. The first place her interest shows isn't where you expect. It's in her eyes, not just that she looks at you, but how she looks at you. A woman who isn't interested will see you the way she sees everything else in the room, briefly, casually, without weight. But when she likes you, her eyes slow down. They linger just a little longer than necessary, not enough to be obvious, but enough to create a question in your mind. And that question is exactly the point. You'll notice it in moments that don't seem important. You're talking, and she's not just hearing you, she's studying you. Her gaze doesn't bounce around the room. It settles on you, like she's trying to understand something deeper than your words. Then comes the shift. She looks away, but not because she's bored, because she's aware that she's been looking too long, aware that if she holds it for one more second, it might reveal too much. That break in eye contact, that's not disinterest, that's control. And this is where most men get it wrong. You assume if she looks away, you've lost her attention, but in reality, she's managing the intensity. Because holding eye contact with someone you're attracted to, it does something to you. It exposes you. So, she plays with it. She'll glance back again. Brief, almost accidental, but it's not accidental. It's calculated enough to keep you engaged, but subtly enough to protect her vulnerability. Sometimes she'll look at your lips while you're talking, just for a second. Not long enough for you to call it out, but long enough for your brain to register something changed. And if you catch it, if you notice it, and hold your composure instead of reacting awkwardly, that's when the dynamic shifts, because now she knows you're paying attention too. There's another layer to this that most men completely miss. When a woman likes you, her eyes soften. It's almost imperceptible, but it's there. The tension in her face drops slightly when she looks at you compared to how she looks at others. It's not something she decides to do. It's instinct, comfort mixed with curiosity. And here's where it gets even more interesting. She'll start using eye contact to test you. She'll hold your gaze just a second longer than normal, almost like she's waiting to see if you'll break first. Not aggressively, but intentionally. It's a silent challenge. Do you look away because you're unsure of yourself, or do you hold it calmly without forcing anything? Because in that tiny moment, she's learning more about you than any conversation could reveal. Confidence isn't what you say. It's what you don't need to say. And your eyes, they betray everything. But here's the truth you need to accept. Not every look means attraction. Some men convince themselves of interest where none is, and that's where they lose control. The difference is consistency. A woman who likes you doesn't just look at you once. It repeats in different moments. When you're speaking, when you're not, even when she thinks you're not paying attention, it becomes a pattern. And patterns don't lie. So the next time you're with her, don't just listen to her words. Watch her eyes. Because if she's showing you this, she's already telling you more than she ever will out loud. Then, there's something even more revealing. Something most men completely overlook because it feels too ordinary to matter. Her lips. Not what she says with them, but what she does with them when you're around. A woman who isn't interested speaks freely. Her mouth moves without thought, without awareness. There's no hesitation, no adjustment, no subtle shift in behavior. She's just existing, just talking. But when she likes you, her lips become part of the conversation in a way she doesn't even realize. You'll notice it in the quiet pauses, moments where she stops speaking for just a second longer than necessary. Her lips press together slightly, or part just enough to draw a breath she didn't need to take. It's small, almost invisible, but it carries weight. Because attraction creates awareness, and awareness shows up in how she holds herself. Sometimes she'll bite her lip, not in some exaggerated performative way, but subtly, almost like she's thinking. But she's not just thinking about the conversation. She's processing you, your presence, your energy, how you make her feel in that moment, and her body responds before she can filter it. You might see her lightly touch her lips with her fingers, adjusting nothing really. Just creating a moment where your attention has a reason to go there. Again, not consciously planned, but not random either. It's instinct dressed as coincidence. And then there's the way she smiles. Not every smile means something. You already know that, but there's a difference between a social smile and a smile that leaks out when she can't quite contain how she feels. The social smile is controlled, quick, polite. But when she likes you, her smile lingers. It builds slowly, like it's forming before she even realizes it. Sometimes it shows up at the wrong time when nothing particularly funny was said. That's your clue, because she's not reacting to the moment, she's reacting to you. And occasionally, you'll catch something even more telling, a smile she tries to suppress. It appears, then she pulls it back, like she's suddenly aware it might reveal too much. That hesitation, that's real. That's not performance. That's her instincts conflicting with her desire to stay composed. But here's where you need to be careful. Not every lip movement, not every smile is about attraction. Context matters, patterns matter. The way it aligns with everything else you're seeing, that's what tells the truth. Because one signal alone can be misleading, but combined, they become undeniable. And here's what most men never realize. When a woman becomes aware of her lips around you, she's not just reacting to attraction. She's imagining brief flashes of thought that she won't admit even to herself. Thoughts that change how she carries herself, even if only for a moment. And those moments, they slip through in these tiny, almost invisible behaviors. You don't need her to say anything. You don't need a confession. Because by the time her lips start behaving differently around you, she's already feeling something. The question is, are you aware enough to notice it? Or will you dismiss it like you've dismissed so many signs before and wonder later what you missed when it's already gone? Now, pay attention, because this is where things become impossible to fake for long. Her neck and shoulders. It sounds simple, almost too simple, but this is where attraction starts to show itself in ways she can't fully control, no matter how composed she tries to be. When a woman is indifferent to you, her posture stays neutral, closed, relaxed, or just functional. She's not thinking about how she's positioned. Her body isn't trying to communicate anything. But when she likes you, something shifts. Her shoulders loosen. there's a subtle drop in tension, like her body is opening up without her permission. And that openness, it's not just physical, it's emotional, it's instinct telling her that you might be someone she wants to feel seen by. And then there's her neck, one of the most vulnerable parts of her body. You'll start noticing small, almost unnoticeable movements. She tilts her head slightly when you speak, exposing more of her neck without making it obvious. Not in a dramatic way, just enough to change the angle, to soften her presence. It's a quiet signal, but a powerful one, because vulnerability and attraction are deeply connected. She might brush her hair to one side, revealing her neck for a moment longer than necessary. Again, she's not standing there thinking, "I'll show him this." It happens naturally because her body is responding to how she feels around you. And here's something even more telling. She'll start adjusting herself, not fixing something that's actually wrong, just small, repetitive movements, touching her collarbone, running her fingers lightly along the side of her neck, adjusting her shirt even when it doesn't need adjusting. These aren't random habits. They're self-soothing behaviors mixed with awareness. When someone makes you feel something, your body looks for ways to release that energy, and these subtle touches, they're how she manages it without saying a word. But there's another layer to this. She becomes more present in her body when you're around. That means her movements slow down slightly. They become more deliberate, more fluid. She's no longer moving on autopilot. There's intention, even if she doesn't realize it. And if you watch closely, you'll see contrast. Around other people, she might be more rigid, more distracted, less aware. But around you, there's softness, there's attention, there's a quiet kind of openness that doesn't show up for just anyone. Now, here's where most men lose the moment. They either don't notice, or they notice and panic internally. They overthink it, start acting differently, trying to match what they think is happening. And that's when the natural flow breaks, because attraction thrives in calm awareness, not forced reaction. If she's showing you this, if her body is opening, softening, revealing those small, vulnerable cues, then the worst thing you can do is make it feel like a performance she has to maintain. You don't need to call it out. You don't need to react dramatically. You just need to hold your ground, stay present, stay steady. Let her feel that you're not thrown off by it, that you're comfortable in that space, because that's what she's really looking for. Not just someone who notices her, but someone who can handle what she's quietly revealing without losing control. And if you can do that, you separate yourself instantly from every man who couldn't. Because most men either miss it or they fumble it. And she remembers both. Now this is where it becomes undeniable, because this part of her body doesn't lie, and it doesn't perform for attention the way you might think. Her hands, watch them carefully. Because when a woman likes you, her hands start telling a story she would never put into words. At first, it's subtle. She becomes more expressive when she talks to you. Her hands move a little more than usual, like her energy needs somewhere to go. She gestures more, not dramatically, but enough that you feel her presence more clearly. That's not random. That's emotional engagement. When she's indifferent, her hands stay still, minimal movement, controlled, almost detached. But when she's into you, that control loosens. And then comes something even more revealing. She starts touching things around her, her glass, her phone, the edge of the table, the fabric of her clothes, over and over again. Not because those things matter, but because she needs an outlet for the tension building inside her. Attraction creates a kind of nervous energy, and her hands are the easiest way to release it without drawing attention. You might catch her running her fingers along the rim of a glass while listening to you, slowly, absent-mindedly, but it's not absent-minded, it's displacement. Her focus is on you, but her body needs to do something with the feeling. And here's where it gets even more interesting. If she feels comfortable enough, that energy starts moving closer to you. She might lightly touch your arm during a conversation, brief, almost like it didn't happen. But it did. And it wasn't accidental. A woman doesn't casually cross into your physical space like that unless there's a reason. She might hand you something and let her fingers linger just a second longer than necessary. Not enough for you to call it out, but enough for you to feel it. That slight delay, that's intention wrapped in subtlety. And if you respond naturally without freezing, without overreacting, it builds momentum. Because now there's a silent understanding forming between you. But here's the part most men completely misunderstand. Not every touch is attraction. Some women are naturally more physical. Some are expressive with everyone. That's why you don't isolate the signal, you look at the pattern. Does she behave this way with you differently than with others? Is there a shift in how often, how long, how intentional those touches feel? Because when it's real, there's a difference you can feel, even if you can't immediately explain it. And then there's the smallest detail that almost no one notices. Her hands fidget more when she's around, not in a nervous, uncomfortable way, but in a restless, charged way. Like her body is slightly ahead of her mind, reacting faster than she can regulate. That's not anxiety, that's anticipation, because part of her is wondering, what happens next? Will you notice? Will you step forward, or stay exactly where you are? And your response matters more than you think. If you ignore it completely, the energy fades. If you overreact, you break the tension. But if you stay grounded, acknowledge it naturally, without forcing anything, you allow that quiet connection to grow. Because her hands are reaching not just physically, but emotionally. And whether you realize it or not, she's waiting to see if you'll meet her there. And now, the final place where everything comes together, her legs. Not in the obvious way you've been conditioned to think, not in some exaggerated, attention-seeking display. It's far more subtle and far more honest than that, because when a woman likes you, her legs don't just exist in the space, they orient toward you. This is instinct. You'll notice it if you're paying attention. In a group setting, when there are multiple people around, her upper body might face the conversation, but her legs, they angle toward you, almost like a compass quietly pointing in your direction. She doesn't think about it. She doesn't plan it. Her body chooses for her, and that's what makes it real. When she's sitting, watch how she positions herself. If she's interested, she'll create subtle alignment. Her knees might angle toward you, even if her torso hasn't fully turned yet. It's not dramatic, it's not obvious, but it's consistent. And consistency is everything. Then there's movement. When she shifts her legs, crosses them, uncrosses them, pay attention to the timing. These movements often happen in moments of heightened awareness, when you're speaking directly to her, when eye contact lingers, when there's a pause in conversation that carries more weight than usual. Her body reacts to those moments, not loudly, but truthfully. Sometimes she'll mirror your rhythm without realizing it. If you lean slightly forward, she adjusts. If you shift, she follows in her own subtle way. It's not imitation, it's connection. And then there's proximity. If she has the option to sit or stand closer to you, and she takes it, even by a small margin, that's not random. People move toward what they're drawn to, always. She might close the gap just enough that it feels natural, not forced, just enough that if either of you moved slightly, you'd be within reach. That space, that's intentional. And here's something even deeper. When a woman feels attraction, she becomes more aware of how she's being perceived. That awareness travels through her entire body, including how she positions her legs. She might adjust her posture, straighten slightly, reposition herself, not to impress everyone in the room, but because you're there. Because whether she admits it or not, your attention matters to her. Now, listen carefully. None of these signs exist in isolation. Eyes, lips, neck, hands, legs. Individually, they can be misunderstood. But together, they form a pattern that's almost impossible to fake. And once you see that pattern, you don't need guessing anymore. You don't need to sit there wondering if she likes you. You know. But here's the part most men don't want to face. Recognizing the signs is only half of it. What you do next is what defines everything. Because a woman can show you all of this, every signal, every subtle invitation, and still walk away if you don't meet her halfway. Attraction isn't just about being chosen. It's about responding when you are. So, here's what I want you to think about. When was the last time you noticed these signs and did nothing? When was the last time she showed you and you doubted yourself instead? Because that moment, that hesitation, that's where most opportunities die. Not because she wasn't interested, but because you didn't trust what was right in front of you. So, I'll leave you with this. If her body is the question, your action is the answer. And I want you to be honest with yourself. On a scale from 1 to 10, how often do you actually act when you feel that quiet signal? drop your number in the comments. And if this opened your eyes even a little, like the video, subscribe, and share it with someone who keeps missing what's right in front of them.